BlackRock now holds more Bitcoin than entire countries, and there are $315 billion worth of Bitcoin sitting on exchanges that people think they own but legally don't. Meanwhile, 99% of Bitcoin holders are breaking the three fundamental rules that actually make Bitcoin work, and it's costing them their financial sovereignty. Here's the plot twist. The people losing aren't getting hacked or scammed. They're just playing by the wrong rulebook. And the difference between winners and losers comes down to three devastatingly simple actions that most people never take. Quick disclaimer: this is purely educational content, not financial advice. Make your own informed decisions and never invest more than you can afford to lose. You bought Bitcoin to escape the traditional financial system, right? To take control of your own money? Well, I've got some uncomfortable news that if you're doing what most people do, buying on Coinbase, leaving it there, and checking the price 47 times a day, you're actually strengthening the exact system you're trying to escape. Let me show you the three rules that separate people who truly benefit from Bitcoin from those who are just along for the ride. Rule 1. If you don't control the keys, you're playing someone else's game. You've heard it a million times. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Everyone nods along, posts it on Twitter, maybe even puts it in their bio. Then they leave their entire stack on Coinbase anyway. Here's why this isn't just annoying crypto bro gatekeeping. It's the difference between financial sovereignty and a glorified IOU. When your Bitcoin sits on an exchange, you don't own Bitcoin. You own a promise from a company that they'll give you Bitcoin if you ask nicely and they feel like it. Let's look at the track record of these promises. FTX collapsed overnight, taking billions with it. Mt. Gox went down and people are still waiting for their Bitcoin over a decade later. Celsius froze accounts and declared bankruptcy. These weren't sketchy no-name platforms. These were major exchanges with millions of users. And here's the kicker. Right now, according to Glassnode, roughly 3 million Bitcoins, that's $315 billion, are sitting in centralized custody. That's 3 million Bitcoins strengthening the exact centralized infrastructure Bitcoin was designed to replace. But here's where most people get stuck. It's too complicated, I'll do it later, what if I mess it up? And that's exactly what the centralized players are counting on. Getting a hardware wallet and moving your Bitcoin to self-custody is literally easier than setting up a Facebook account. I'm not exaggerating. Buy a Trezor, Ledger, or Cold Card. When it arrives, search wallet name. Setup tutorial on YouTube. Follow the steps. Done. You don't need to be a tech genius. You don't need to understand cryptography. You need about 30 minutes and the willingness to actually take control of your money. Think about learning to drive. Remember how terrifying that felt at first? Now you do it without thinking, and it fundamentally changed your freedom and independence. Self-custody is the same thing. Intimidating until you do it, then you wonder why you waited so long. And look, you don't have to move your entire stack immediately. Start with an amount you're comfortable with. Prove to yourself you can do it. Once you've successfully sent Bitcoin to your own wallet and realize the world didn't explode, you'll never trust an exchange the same way again. So, you've got your Bitcoin in self-custody. Congratulations. You're already ahead of 90% of holders. But if you stop there, you're missing the second rule that actually makes Bitcoin valuable. Rule 2. Dead money is dead weight. Actually use it. Here's an uncomfortable truth. When Bitcoin just sits in wallets forever, never moving, never being used for actual transactions, we're collectively telling the world it's not money. It's just a speculative asset waiting to be sold for dollars. And if that's all Bitcoin is, then honestly, what's the point? You've just created digital gold that sits in a vault while you still use your credit card for everything. The winners understand that Bitcoin's value comes from its network effect. Every transaction proves it works. Every purchase creates demand. Every time someone successfully uses Bitcoin for a real-world transaction, another person realizes, oh, this actually functions as money. You don't need to spend your entire stack. That would be insane. But spend and replace is a strategy anyone can use. Spend $20 worth of Bitcoin, then immediately replace it with the fiat you would have used anyway. You're not depleting your holdings, you're circulating the currency and making it more useful. And honestly, if you've never actually used Bitcoin for a transaction, you're missing out on the moment when this whole thing clicks. It's like reading about roller coasters versus actually riding one. The difference is visceral. Hype the video if that analogy made it click for you. But here's where it gets practical. Nobody near me accepts Bitcoin, so what's the point? Well, let me show you the infrastructure you didn't know existed. The Lightning Network processed 100 million transactions in Q1 2025 alone. That's a 28% jump from the previous quarter. This isn't some distant future possibility. This is happening right now. Download Strike, Wallet of Satoshi, or BitKit. These apps let you transact Bitcoin instantly with negligible fees. You can find businesses accepting Bitcoin at bitcoinmap.org. There are already 18,000 locations worldwide. But here's the game changer. You can use Bitrefill to buy gift cards for literally anywhere you already shop. Amazon, Starbucks, grocery stores, gas stations. You're not waiting for businesses to adopt Bitcoin. You're using Bitcoin infrastructure that already exists to spend money where you normally spend it anyway. And every time you do this, you're not just buying coffee or groceries. You're voting with your wallet for a financial system that can't be frozen, censored, or inflated away by central banks printing money. Okay, you're in self-custody and actually using Bitcoin for transactions. You're already in the top 5% of holders. But the third rule, this is the one that determines whether Bitcoin actually succeeds long-term or just becomes corporate gold. Rule 3. Don't just hold Bitcoin. Become the network. Here's what most people miss. Bitcoin's security and decentralization don't come from the code alone. They come from thousands of individuals running nodes, verifying transactions, and refusing to trust anyone else's version of the truth. Running a Bitcoin node means you become part of the infrastructure. You're not relying on Coinbase or Binance to tell you what transactions are valid. You're checking for yourself. You're not trusting some corporation's infrastructure. You're routing your own transactions through your own node. This is what Jeff Booth means when he says, "We are both the map and the territory." Instead of banks and governments controlling the money system, individual people become the actual infrastructure that makes it work. And here's the beautiful part. It's easier than you think. You've got two options. Buy a plug-and-play device like Start9 or Umbrel for a few $100, or use your existing computer with an SSD drive and follow a 5-minute tutorial. That's it. You're now part of the most important financial network in human history. But before you think this is all sunshine and decentralization, there's a threat brewing that most people aren't paying attention to. Here's something critical. Bitcoin Core, the software over 99% of nodes use to run, has been allowing more and more spam onto the network. This bloats the blockchain, requiring bigger hard drives and more expensive equipment to run a node. When running a node gets more expensive, fewer regular people can do it. When fewer people run nodes, the network centralizes. And centralization is literally the opposite of Bitcoin's entire purpose. But here's why I'm not worried. Bitcoin Knots, alternative node software that filters spam better, has jumped from 3% to over 17% of nodes in just a few months. The community saw a problem and adapted immediately. This is Bitcoin's immune system working exactly as designed. The network isn't perfect, but it's self-correcting because thousands of people actually care enough to act. Which brings us to the choice every Bitcoin holder needs to make right now. Here's the disappointing future I'm worried about. Bitcoin hits $1 million per coin, but it's just digital gold sitting in BlackRock's vaults while regular people still can't use it for daily transactions. Sure, your number went up, but the global free market that could actually help people? Still decades away. Or here's the alternative. Enough people follow these 3 rules. Self-custody, actual usage, running nodes, that Bitcoin remains decentralized and becomes actual functioning money that nobody can control. The difference between these futures is the actions of individual holders. Not governments, not corporations, not miners. You. Look, I get it. These 3 rules require actual effort. It's easier to leave your Bitcoin on Coinbase, never spend it, and definitely not run a node. Most people will choose easy. That's why most people will end up as spectators while institutions control Bitcoin's future. But if you're still watching, you're probably not most people. You probably bought Bitcoin because you actually believe in financial sovereignty, not just number go up. So here's your moment to choose which side you're on. Self-custody isn't complicated. It's a 30-minute YouTube tutorial away. Spending Bitcoin isn't impossible. Lightning apps and Bitrefill make it trivial. Running a node isn't just for tech nerds. Plug-and-play devices exist specifically for regular people. If this breakdown showed you the difference between holding Bitcoin and actually participating in Bitcoin, hit that like button and subscribe because I focus on the uncomfortable truths that actually matter, not just price predictions and hype. And drop a comment. Which of these 3 rules are you already following, and which one are you committing to this week? Because talk is cheap, but action is what separates winners from losers. Bitcoin's future is being decided right now by individual choices, including yours. The question isn't whether Bitcoin will succeed. It's whether you'll be an active participant in that success or just another spectator hoping the number goes up. Your move.